So, just real quick, there are some areas for the teaching that I want to get into. I may have to send you some other information, unless you can kind of see if you can find them for me. I need something Martin Luther King picture and Malcolm X picture. I need one of those to throw up there. These are things that's needed to bring to light some other areas that we've been working on. So let's see if I can get some feedback from you. What is your on last week's dealing with the 12 tribes charts breakdown? Let's get some feedback from some of you here. Your thoughts. We don't really have a lot of time, so I must kind of encourage you to speak up quickly if you don't mind, because we're going to go into the teaching shortly. So let's go with brothers first then. Let's go, Isaiah.
I thought it was excellent. For the main reason, in fact, being that so many people have disavowed the 12 tribes chart, and that just proves that what you proved last week is that it's viable. And especially when you look at the things that each tribe did in regards to the prophecies that were spoken over them. For instance, like with the Levites saying that they would spread dung on their faces, and we saw that happen to them.
Come. And it has been the position of Esau to fake and to tell you that the people who are of the this country, who are the Aborigines, that they are red people, and there is absolutely no such thing as red people. There is no such thing. All of the people who are of the natives of this country, they were all black. Not even trying to be some kind, they were black. They were just plain and simple black. And remember, they confused everything by making it a situation where they would begin to change their status by making them what's called freemen, and from freemen they change their status again to Negro. And that's how they mixed in or convoluted the information of the Aboriginal Americans of this country. And here's the thing to bear in mind, that these individuals were send it directly to her, if you please.
I have some.
You got some? Good. All right. These individuals were people, the Aborigines, that is. These are people who, in fact, plain and simply had cities. And this is why the American history is full of lies. And it's full of lies because they do not want to give you credit. The American history does not speak of or teach that you had cities. The place that they call Philadelphia, it was overrun as a city with Indians. What they called, the proper terminology is Chicago. But we've learned to say Chicago, It's Chicago. Chicago itself was a city of Indians. They had huge teepees that could hold over 100 people, and they had those things for conferences with the other nations. They had huge buildings for storage because they would hunt and they would get the bison, and when they would get the bison, they would dry it out and salt it, and it would keep itself throughout the winters for themselves. These weren't novices. all that you have been taught is a lie. And Esau will continue to get away with that unless when you are in an environment where you have to show yourself at a level of intelligentsia, that you let people know that what you have been taught at school is a lie. All the way over in Europe, we thought that the Indians looked half white. That's what we were taught. And it was Charles, not Charles, it was, what's his name? Bowling? What's his name? Say again? No. No, I'm speaking about the one of your great black literaries, James, thank you. James Baldwin. It was he who articulated it well, both at Cambridge University and here at Harvard, where he explained that as a child he was misled into believing that the death of the Indians was our freedom, not realizing that the death of the Indians, it was all about him being killed. And remember, even Martin Luther King later on turned around and said that that we were the Aboriginals in one of his speeches. Why is it that all this knowledge has been taught and known and yet still has never been brought out? The news never brings it out. You never see a child come home from school and say, I learned about the Indians today, because they don't want this country to ever have any relationship to you being the Aborigines. So, in saying all of that, is there any, again, any other individual who would like to share a point or two on last week's? By the way, did you get that, man? Did it come through to you, what I just sent?
Oh, I was working on something else.
Okay, all right.
I'll check.
That's all
Please.
right. Grace and peace.
In addition to what Isaiah talked about, Dominican Republic is a country that's close to my country. Matter of fact, Dominican Republic, my country.
What is the question, sir? We've got to get into the lesson, so make it short.
My country name is Dominica. I always try to figure out why is this particular country in the island is so poor. Even though the country I came from is a developing country, but Dominican Republic is very poor, and the state they're living in. And the teaching last week make it very clear with the scripture saying what was prophesied was going to happen, what Yahweh said that was going to happen to them, so that make it very clear. Make it very, very clear to me.
Come on. Now, I'm going to send something to you right now. I'm going to send it. I want you to put this up on the screen as soon as you can, if you please, because I just want to show you how messed up we are as a people. I'm airdropping it. I don't know.
Yes, that's perfect. Oh, if you would do it to the Mac, the Mac, you should see it as well.
All right, let me do it again. Yeah, that's the one that I'm. Got it? All right. If you could just throw that up just for a moment. The reason why I want to show you this image before we get started in the lesson. And again, I'm going to take it like last week. I'm going to go very slow. Well, as slow as I can be, because you know how I get. I'm going to go as slow as I possibly can. And I'm going to give you room to ask questions, because I think it's important.
Just one minute.
But I want you to really be aware of a couple of things as we go through this. Nothing that we're teaching cannot be corroborated. Nothing. So if anyone ever turns around and says, yes, please. If anyone ever turns around and says, well, you can't prove it, that's not true, we can. Remember last week when we did this teaching, I can't take credit for any of this, because there were some great teachers who taught this maybe 20 years ago. All I'm doing is rehashing that information and bringing new evidence and sources to it, to bring it out there to make it more plain to our listening audience, who is Israel. Khan? Now, there's an image that I want to show you, and it's an image that shows a young black boy bending down in church and kissing the cross with a white Jesus on it. Now, the reason why that troubles me so is because this is where our people are at. They are actually, let me know what it's there. We've been so mind-washed into, or brainwashed into white Jesus. That is why psychologically we still have a problem with each other. They knew psychologically over 100 years, in fact 1,000 years ago, they knew that if they could make God white, they would have nothing to worry about in their future, nor with their children. You go to the greatest cathedrals in the world, they have pictures of God looking, this old, fat, obese-looking, white, gray-haired white guy in the clouds. And they want us to believe that that is God. That's why psychologically, even when we are traveling in places and we see an old person needing a seat, we, pardon me for saying this, do pardon me for saying this, we niggers are quick to get out of our seat. You can see this, this is a trigger point for me, and give it to them. And I have yet to see an old aged black woman who needs a seat and someone's going to get up and give them a seat. I've yet to see movies or commercials or anything like that showing our people in that position, but they'll always show you getting up. Now, keep your mind in that spot where you feel like that's our God. We have to be kind. What some of our people do, especially Benjamites back in the UK, some of us say, oh, forgive and forget, man. Forgive and forget, man. No. There's no forgive and there's no forget, because our Father in heaven does not forget, and he will not forgive. Now, for some of you who are struggling with this, let's go to Romans chapter 9. Let's go there real quick. Let's read that. Let's read that so we can make that really clear. Read from verse 12.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 9 and 12. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger.
Go on.
As it is written.
Now, that's the key word that you want to always pay attention to. It says, as it is written, meaning it has been written before. And notice, we're reading from the New Testament. And there are lots of people out there like to say, well, that's Old Testament. It has nothing to do with us. You know, where is it in the New Testament? Well, we're reading from the New Testament.
Come.
It says Romans chapter 9 and verse 12. It said, read it again.
This is the book of Romans 9 and 12. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger.
Read.
As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated.
And they turn around and say, well, God doesn't hate anyone. Yes, he does.
Come.
Yes, he does. That's what the churches don't want to teach. You will never get Hagee teaching that. Never. Because for him to teach that would put him in a situation where he is going to be, in the future, the downtrodden. And if you notice how smart some of these leaders are, some of them have even slanted themselves now, where they're now saying, well, I'm half Jewish. with the hopes that that Jewishness will show that, well, I'm God's children just like you. You see? And that right there is the problem. That's why, you see, you've got to get here early to make sure that these things are working correctly. All right. So, but let's see where this all comes from. Let's go back to where all this occurs. Let's go to Malachi, shall we? Let's read Malachi chapter 1.
Yes, sir.
And let's read verse 4.
This is the book of Malachi, chapter 1 and verse 4.
Go on.
Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished.
Edom says we are impoverished. Go on.
But we will return.
But notice what they say. We will return. Huh? Go on.
And build the desolate places.
And do what?
And build the desolate places.
And build the desolate places. Read on.
Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down.
I will what?
They shall build, but I will throw down.
I will throw down. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? All right. Let's move on. Now, are we ready as yet? We are? All right. So this imagery that's going to come up, hopefully in the next few minutes or seconds,
It's there.
right? I want you to read out the captions aloud, if you please.
Yes, sir. So that you do not act corruptly and make a graven image for yourselves in the form of any figure, the likeness of male or female. Deuteronomy 4 and 16.
Read it again. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 16. Let's read what it says.
So that thou do not act corruptly and make a graven image for yourselves in the form of any figure, the likeness of male or female.
Now let's go to the writings of Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 16 and let's read it.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and verse 15. And it reads, Take ye, therefore, good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner or similitude on the day that the Lord spake unto you in Horeb.
Read.
Out of the midst of the fire, lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female.
Read on.
The likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air.
All right, good. Let's read Jeremiah chapter 10 and 8. Jeremiah chapter 10 and 8. Let's go.
It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10 and verse 8. But they are altogether brutish and foolish. The stock is a doctrine of vanities.
So, what comes to mind when you see this image of brethren? What comes to mind? And please don't sit there and tell me that nothing comes to mind, because all sorts of emotions are flowing through my veins at this point. That's why I can't even look at the thing for long. Go ahead, sir.
Grace and peace, sir. It just shows how much we've been destroyed as a people. You see this young, the young leading the young into idolatry. This is not a unique situation. It's got to be happening pretty much all over.
It's still happening over in Africa right this very minute. Yes, ma'am. Grace and peace.
What's more concerning is that Esau's not even there telling them to do it, but it's
Absolutely. So repeat that for those who.
I said, when I look at the image, more importantly, it's for our people, and Esau's not even there telling them to do it.
Right. So it's reached a point where the enemy doesn't have to tell them what to do anymore. They do it automatically.
Right.
And this is where our people have now found themselves at a stage where they don't have to be told. They are indeed doing it on autopilot. All right, brothers and sisters, we're going to go into the second part. We've got one more part to do, so this part will run a little bit long, only because we want to get in 3 tribes, as we did last week. The tribe we're going to be dealing with this week, in terms of the 12-tribe breakdown, is Judah. Judah. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and we'll begin reading at verse 37. Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and we're going to read from verse 37.
Yes, this is the book of Deuteronomy 28:37. And thou shalt become as astonishment, a proverb.
Now read it again.
And thou shalt become an astonishment,
Correct, go on.
a proverb, and a byword among all nations whither the Lord shall lead thee.
Whether the Lord shall lead us. Could someone please tell me, what does the word proverb mean? What does it mean to be a proverb? Can anyone please tell me? And by the way, we say Brakta Yahweh Bashul Mashiach Yahushai to all our council watching from the various parts of the United States. Pray that God continue to bless you and give you strength as you walk in this way. So, what is a proverb? Can anyone? Let's get some one of the sisters. So one of the sisters saying, all right, sister, since welcome back, Sister Sue, what does a proverb mean? What does a proverb mean? From your own understanding. You're not sure. All right, very good. I'm sure your sister would know. Sister Dolores, what does a proverb mean? Notice what it says. Read it again. Read it again before she answers.
Yes, sir. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb.
Go on.
And a byword.
And a what?
And a byword.
And a byword. Go on.
Among all nations.
Among who?
Among all nations.
Among all nations. All right, before you answer Ezekiel, run to Ezekiel chapter 14 and 8. Ezekiel chapter 14 and 8, real please. We'll get there. 14 and 8. Let's read.
1 minute. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 30. Say again first.
14 and 8.
14 and 8. It reads, and I will set my face against that man.
Read.
And will make him a sign.
Make him what?
A sign.
Go on.
And a proverb.
Go on.
And I will cut him off from the midst of my people.
Go on.
And ye shall know that I am the Lord.
The Lord. All right, so tell me, what does that, yeah, go ahead. An example? No. Well, in this context, yes, as what we just read in Ezekiel. But if I call you lots of disparaging words, what am I basically doing to you? We, as a people of color, we've been called disparaging words. And most of the disparaging words that we've been called has to do with the size of our nose, our lips, our build even, our color, our hair. Can you imagine every single thing about your humanity has been mocked by the other nations. And yet, the size of our nose is exactly the way it ought to be, because our Father which is in heaven designed our nose after his own nose. And that's why when we run long distances, the chimneys of our nose allows us to breathe. The shape of our ears is always done, and you'll notice how the ringlets within the inside allows us to be able to pick up sounds from long distances that Esau struggles with or has to train to be like that. The very hair we have that they mock is a hair that can absorb heat. Allows us that we, unlike them, we can walk great distances. And because of our hair, it allows us to cool our brains down and does not fry our brains. Now, isn't that something? The very things they mock about us, that we stupidly go to the surgery clinics to have adjusted, is the things that make us operate supernaturally on this earth. Now, isn't that something? They used to laugh at our derrieres on our female women's side. And to show you how stupid that was, they went and started to make bell skirts that they would have a bell on it to accentuate their hips and their buttocks.
Right.
So much so, and that the so-called white man who pretended he didn't like it would always want to sneak a look at a black woman.
So true.
So when we go back and we read the scriptures, read what it says, go back and read, if you please, Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 37. Read it again, please.
Deuteronomy 30, 28 and 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
So wherever we've gone, all nations, when we've been in China, they've mocked us. When we've been in India, they mocked us. When we have been in Rome, they mocked us. When we've been in the Grecian area, they mocked us. We've been mocked everywhere that we have been. And that primarily is what a proverb is. To mock us. To make us look less than. But they're going to be very surprised when they see Yahushua, the Son of God, turn up. And when he turns up looking the way that he looks, and we look like him, beloved, it does not yet appear what we shall be, but we know when he shall appear. We Israel, shall be like him. For we shall see him as he is. Let's go, if you please, to Genesis chapter 49, and let's begin the teaching. Genesis chapter 49.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to begin at verse 8.
Yes, sir. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 49 and verse 8. It readeth, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise.
Read it again.
Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise.
So Judah, you are the brethren, or that the other brethren of the 12 tribes is going to praise. Judah is the top tribe. Now, if all the other tribes have a problem with that, just get over it. Judah is the top tribe. Read it again. You read the whole verse.
Yes, sir. Genesis 48:8. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise.
Shall what?
Shall praise.
Shall praise. Read.
Thy hand shall be in the neck.
Stop. So let's look at why does it use the word thy hand. Please make a note. The term the hand refers to being in a place of high position and authority and becoming popular throughout the entire earth. Judah is the key tribe that has become great in entertainment, the media, politics, military, acting, entertainment, sports, amusement, and even inventions. Judah. Now, you see, when we see it from that standpoint, you see how it starts to make you realize that you're not nothing? For people that have been in slavery to have now reached a point where their greatness has become so good that all around the world you are known and you're ex-slaves. Sammy Davis Jr., this little short black man, was known all over the world. You see that? Then you speak about those of you who are in sport, who can run and play basketball, known all over the world. Those of you who have acted and now have risen to the high echelons of that Shakespearean experience. The Denzel Washingtons of this world, known all over the world. How is this? Because, let's read it again. Read 8 again.
Genesis 48:8. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise.
Thy brethren shall praise. Meaning all the other 12 tribes, wherever we are scattered, we praise you. I know that to be a fact because when I was in the UK and I'd see Judah and what they're doing and the Ebony magazines and all of those things. Oh, I want to be like Judah. I want to go to America. I want to see Judah. That's why it says what it says. That your brethren will what?
Shall praise.
Shall praise. And then it says, thy hand, go on.
Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemy.
Now, the neck of the enemy, that explains to us something different. Because there is a double understanding to the term neck. The neck means, first and foremost, that Judah is in the neck of the land of North America. Because North America is the neck. Because remember, when you consider South America, Central America, and then North America, and then Canada. Because many times you rule out Canada thinking, well, Canada has nothing to do with you. Canada has everything to do with you. Don't buy into that nonsense. And it is the neck of it all. So the neck is a strong place. A place which is up to where things operate and things happen. The neck also explains to us or prescribes to us the fact that the African American, so-called, are going to be those who will have the ability to reach the top of their field and be recognized even in leadership of the country that once held them slaves. That's why you have the Colin Powells of this world. See? You have the Jesse Jackson. These are the people that are in politics. Our people have risen to those high echelons. So not only are you in the neck, the very controlling part of the country, you also as a people, you have risen to greater levels. Does that make sense to you so far?
Con.
All right. Some feedback every now and then is good for the teacher.
Yes, sir.
Encouragement makes the runner run faster.
Con.
All right. Read on, sir.
Thy father's children,
Thy what?
their father's children,
Go on.
shall bow down before thee.
Shall bow down before thee. That means all the other 11 tribes will bow down to Judah. And that might be the reason why the devil, the enemy, runs riot in Judah, because Judah is held to a high esteem. And that's why you see so much mess goes on in Judah. Does that make sense so far?
Con.
So the father's children, that connotes to the head. Let's go to Zephaniah chapter 12, please.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to read verse 7. Zephaniah chapter 12 and verse 7.
It's the book of Zephaniah. You said 12 and 17.
Zephaniah chapter 12 and verse 7.
There is no 12, sir.
Did I say Zephaniah?
Yes, sir.
Zechariah, Zechariah.
It's the book of Zechariah, chapter 12 and verse 7. It reads, the Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first.
Read that again.
The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first.
Now, the reason why, again, it is saying that, because Judah holds a very high position, as you heard me mention. But he says that the Lord shall save the tents, the dwelling places. Tents is the place where you dwell, the dwelling places of Judah first. And why would he do that? That the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. Because what will happen is the other tribes will be in a position to show themselves off, to look down on Judah, and to mock Judah. But instead, the writer tells us that Judah, the Lord shall save the tents of Judah first. That means out of all the other 11, none of them are going to be in a position of being saved first or opened up to the knowledge and then the understanding that the Most High God wants to give until he goes to Judah first. Read it all again, sir.
Yes, sir. This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 12 and verse 7.
And then read straight through to 8.
Yes, sir. The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first.
Read.
That the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah.
Do not do what?
Magnify themselves against Judah.
Against Judah. Go ahead.
In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem.
Go on.
And he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. And the house of David shall be as Yahweh, and the angel of the Lord before them.
Before who?
Before them.
Go on.
And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem.
So, all the nations will come against us. The Most High God is going to destroy them.
Con.
Quickly go to Romans chapter 1 and verse 16. Let's just read that as a precept to Zechariah chapter 12 and 7. Romans chapter 1 and 16. Let's read.
This is the book of Romans 1 and 16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Yahushua, the Mashiach. For it is the power of Yahweh unto salvation everyone that believeth, to the Jew first.
Stop. Notice it says to the Jew first. Remember why it says that. The word Jew is, actually hails from the word Judah. So it's really lets you know that Judah is first. Even there it's saying it.
Come on.
Now, the Jews, which have been acknowledged and known by, which is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. They're the three groups of people that, as the southern kingdom, they're known as Jews. The other 10 are not called Jews. The only ones that are called Jews is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, because they all moved together. They are the southern kingdom. You with me?
Yes, sir.
So now, here, if we were even to remove Benjamin for a moment and remove Levi for a moment, here it makes it very clear. By the very name that the term Jew comes from, which is Judah, it says what? To the Jew first.
Con.
See that?
Yes, sir.
And also to the Greek, meaning those who are Jews, those who are of our people that are still stuck in the ways of the Greekish ways of the nations of the world that have held us captive.
Come.
Nothing's changed. Very much like what we are now. You know that, right?
Yes.
Because we're in America, and you do know that we still operate like Americans, right? Those from the UK, you operate like a so-called, whatever. We operate like the nations that we are a part of. Con? All right. It's starting to get kind of chilly in here. I everybody feel good? You all feel good with this temperature? All right, so don't bring it down too much, because I want the sisters to be happy. But I want to be happy too, see? When I feel my nose beginning to run, that's how I know. All right, so let's go back, if you please, to Genesis chapter 49. Let's go back there, please.
Yes, sir.
Is there any questions that anybody has? Oh, yes. Very good. Mm-hmm. He's got the mic right there, but our sister's still speaking low. Go on.
You mentioned knowledge and understanding.
Very good.
Then, Romans 1:16, we have the power of salvation.
Go on.
Is this saying that the knowledge and understanding of Judah first is what's going to cause the chariots to come to Judah first?
The short answer to that is yes, because it's the sovereign line. It's the kingly line. And if you're going to save a nation, what do? You save you cover the king first, right? This is the line that the king comes from. And you can't let anything happen to that line. Because that's the line that he's going to eventually rule through. Right? So, and this will be explained later, but let me just say it now so you understand. That's why when he comes, when Yahushua returns, he's not coming back and he's going to jump down into Africa or Europe or China. He's coming right here first, because this is where Judah and all the other tribes are.
Con.
There is nowhere in the world, where all 12 tribes do not converge, but right here. And he did it, and the Most High did it extremely excellent. Because he allowed certain things to happen so that it would engage with everybody and bring everybody together. You see? Now, with this type of teaching, you have to be careful. I know I have to. And forgive me if I go a little bit off every now and then, but it does trigger me. And I won't be a liar. It does trigger me. Because I feel hurt when I know that my people are being hurt. And if you can still be happy and smiling when you know your people are being hurt and talk about it like it means nothing, what does the scripture say? He said, those that could be touched by the feelings of our infirmities. You have to have a sensitivity that you could be touched by this. See? So yes, as I said, it has a triggering effect, but we have to sometimes bite our tongue and move forward, because this is also how we learn. This is how I certainly learn. Come? But your point is well taken. All right. So where were we?
Back in Genesis 49.
We're back at Genesis where?
49.
Right. So we're back at Genesis chapter 49, and we're going to now read verse 9.
This is the book of Judah, chapter 49 and 9. Judah is a lion's whelp.
Now notice, it says Judah is a lion's whelp, and right there, and for those of you listening online and you wonder why sometimes I make emphasis on colons and semicolons or commas, because that's important to understand the impact of what it's trying to tell us. It says Judah is a lion's whelp. And what that basically means is that Judah is strong. Judah is mighty. And Judah is ready. Now, when were they ready? When were they at their strength? Read on, sir.
From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down.
All right, stop. So it says, so that a couple of things here. It says, Judah's a lion's whelp, meaning he's strong, he's ready. And it said, from the prey. From the prey. Something I want for the prey. It'll come to me in a moment. Right. Yes. The word prey here means basically from the scriptures. Right? So it says, from the prey, my son. So Judah becomes adverse and well-grounded in the scriptures. And so, in Judah being like that, that was their beginning. Because during the 60s, there was a consciousness that came out in Judah. That's why if we can put some of the images up of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, etc., etc., etc. These are individuals who impact that age, because they began to realize that they were strong. Angela Davis, the Soledad Brothers, Black Power, Black Panthers. If you remember, those of you who grew up in those age, you will know that these individuals, they were seeking for change. Some softer than others. Martin Luther King was softer than others because, unfortunately, he was misled. His misleading came because he borrowed the patterns of who? Can anyone tell me? Yes, ma'am. Mahatma Gandhi. He followed the methodology of Mahatma Gandhi. And here's the joke. Mahatma Gandhi did not like black people. That East Indian sack of bones hated our people. And yet this man, let's scroll it through, we go to Malcolm X and some others. He thought that was the best way to do it, which was non-violence. But here's the thing. The others, and he was the only one that stopped it, by the way. King was the one who stopped it. And later on, lived to regret it because he was one who realized that's not the way we should have gone.
Right.
While people like Malcolm X were saying, we need to rise up and all the rest of it. And that's why you had the Soledad Brothers, you had the Black Panther movement, you had Angela Davis and the other good-looking black woman. She looks like Angela Davis, in fact. Can't remember her name. But you had her too, who was a part of all of this. And notice how they did it. They were articulating with clear, concise dialogue. That's why even the news media was moved towards it. That's why they have a movie out right now that's called the Black Messiah, something going on, the Black Messiah. Say it again? Judas and the Black Messiah, which shows you, and by the way, it's a very good movie doc. In that, you saw how our own people was used to betray us. And 9 times out of 10, it is always our people who betray our own people. You don't have to worry about the white man. Because we do a great job at bad-mouthing, down-talking, belittling our own people. We're good at that. I used to say to some brothers who surrounded my eyes, I say, can you not find one word good to say about your brother? And it stunted him. He said, in fact, his word was Christ. I never knew I was that bad. I said, you are that bad and more. We have to learn to find something good to say about someone, our people in this case. So it tells us here that, let's read it again, if you please.
Yes, sir. This is the book of Genesis 49:9. Judah is a lion's whelp from the prey, my son. Thou art gone up. He stooped down. He couched as a lion.
Stop. Stoop down. That's all I want so far.
Yes, sir.
Now, remember, he stooped down, meaning he was ready to attack. And remember, if you remember the 60s well, it became a tinderbox where anything could have taken off at that time. I was young. I watched it in the news. Any news that came on with that, I wanted to know what was going on. Because here we have our people who were ready to pounce like a lion. And here's the thing. Instead of leading more to the prey, which was the knowledge of the truth, we went off into things like Egyptology, becoming a Muslim, and all of these other New Age things that came about. And that's why, if you remember at that time, that our people used to walk around with afro, that cross that had the peace sign on it, red, gold, and green, blah, blah, blah. All of that was the signs of that time. But it says here that he crouched as a lion, meaning he was ready to attack. He stooped down. And again, that was the 60s. That was the power age of Malcolm X and all of those individuals. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, did you notice that all of that energy just ceased like overnight? The government realized we can go in and we can corrupt these people. All of those loudmouths, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton individuals who used to run their mouth, now the government says, we'll give you $1 million a year to go into your special party or whatever it is. We'll give you that every year. All we want you to do is to keep things calm. Here's the second thing that came about. The CIA and the FBI started to bring in drugs. And all of those drug situations that were being brought in started to change the image of things. Now the drug situation, that starts to get a little bit heavy, but remember, we're dealing with the 60s at this point. Now, as a lion, let's read what it says here.
He couched as a lion and as an old lion.
As an old lion. Now, the reason why it says as an old lion, because now all of the energy that he had, all of that stirring that he had, he slowed it down and he went to sleep. The Lion of the tribe of Judah that can break every chain went to sleep. Do you think the enemy could have defeated them back then? No. Because the Most High God was with them. Was it that was the way of the Most High God? No, it wasn't. Because the one who put us in this is the only one who can take us out of this.
Con. So true.
Gone?
Con.
Question number. Go ahead.
I think at that time, it started allowing us to get more education. Because it was during that time that the politics was going to open up and the government was going to give out grants to the to us blacks, to educate us their way. And I think before then, the education was very limited.
Con.
You know, like high school, you have to go out and get
Con.
learn what they want to learn.
That was because primarily there was still segregation at the time. There weren't the mixing. Remember, all these things that were used, that they were used to quill. It wasn't used to change. Education is still, it's in the garbage today as it was back then. And all they've done from that time to now is made it more expensive. So they used a lot of these things to pacify, but they knew Judah was a lion. That's why they hated to see groups of black men being educated by black men who were educated. They did not like people like King. They didn't like people certainly like Malcolm, and they because they didn't want those type of voices to be heard. Con? Now, with that 60s, we see that brings about the old line. Let's go back and read verse 10.
Yes, sir. This is Genesis 49 and 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah.
Can anyone explain what does that mean? We've read it many years, been in church many years. What does that mean? What does that mean? The scepter, read it again.
The scepter shall not depart from Judah.
What does that mean? Go ahead, sister. Yes, it does. Does it have something to do with the royal bloodline? Yes, it does, but I need a little bit more, if you please. Anything else? Go ahead.
The authority.
Say that one more time.
Since Jehovah came from Judah, the authority will always be there. Good. So now let's see if we can work with that now. Read it again, sir. Slow.
Yes, sir. Genesis 49 and 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah.
The scepter shall not depart from Judah. Now, then it goes on to say, go on.
Nor a lawgiver from between his feet.
Go on.
Until Shiloh come.
Until who?
Shiloh come.
Go on.
And unto him shall the gathering of the people be.
Now, it said the scepter shall not depart. What is a scepter? What is a scepter?
Grace and peace, sir. The scepter is what the king usually holds the rule with.
The scepter is what the king usually holds the rule in.
Right.
A staff.
A scepter is a staff that has like a ball on the end, and it's meant to be quite weighty because, believe it or not, it's the kingly. It's a weapon. Many people think it's just something to rule with, but it's a weapon. It was used that a king could use in battle and crush the helmets and the skulls of those who would come forward. You see? That's why when a king would receive an audience from a nation or a king from another nation, he didn't sit there. Many of these movies show you the king sitting there with his hands open, got some guards around him. No, he always had his scepter in his hand. Because if someone should run forward, he had the ability to smash that person with his scepter. Because it's the authority and rulership of a king. That's why he always had one in his hand. All kings have one. Especially in the times of battle or war or unease. Are you with me so far? Now, let's begin to bring some deepness to this. Yes, please. Now, hold on. I'm up. Is that mic up? All right. Go ahead. Sister Elizabeth, I know you got a voice now. I know that. I've heard, look, I've heard it. So, all right, let's hear it.
Last year I had the opportunity to attend graduation at historical black college.
Very good.
And what I noticed about the meeting was one of the sessions, the walk in with the scepter.
The walk through with a scepter. Come
I
on.
had not seen that.
Right, right. Because again, a scepter, it's only used where? I just said it. Where? In Judah. So it's not unseemly for Judah to have a scepter because they're the only ones who can have a scepter. With me so far?
God.
All right. So now let's give you some historical weight to this. When we understand the scepter, do I want to go into that now? Yeah. We will. Okay. Okay, bear with me.
God.
All right. Okay. So let's go back. Read Genesis 49 and 10 again, one more time.
This is Genesis 49 and 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah,
Go on.
nor a lawgiver from between his feet,
Go on.
until Shiloh come. And unto him,
So it's letting us know that's history. The scepter shall not depart. When did Israel lose its scepter? All right, sir, go ahead.
80,
When?
70, 80.
70 AD.
Yes, sir.
All right, explain.
When they called Jerusalem. They called Jerusalem.
You're all right. 70 AD. Because at that time they tore down Jerusalem. They went in and took everything. They took our candles, our giant candle stand, with a menorah. We had maybe a 12-foot menorah, something like this. But ours was like a giant bird, 12 foot high, twice my height, maybe. And the Romans took that out and all our gold and everything else. Now, here is what we want to do. We have to look at the scripture said. The scripture lets us know who shall rouse him up. Let's read verse 11.
this is Genesis 49 and 11. Binding his foal unto the vine,
Go on.
and his ass's coat unto the choice vine.
Go on.
He washed his garments in wine,
And what?
Go
on.
And is clothed in the blood of grapes.
Blood of grapes. Now, so here, there are two views of this. One of the first views is that Yahushua drank a lot of wine. He drank a lot of wine. Now, they don't teach that in the Christian church because they don't want, and we don't know wine to be associated with our Jesus. Because Jesus, he just didn't. Well, he drank a lot of wine. The Bible says he did. That's why they even called him a wine bibber. They called him a wine bibber. Is that a point, sir? It's a long soliloquy. No.
Sir, just a quick question.
Go ahead, sir.
Is the wine also, grace and peace, is the wine also synonymous with his knowledge of the word of Yahweh, the word of the Father?
No. This is what it's synonymous with. The wine he drank that got him, he did find himself falling asleep by it. That's why his eyes were red and so on. Now, all of that is important. Some would say, oh, well, I didn't know he did all that. Yes, he did. And he did it for this reason. His eyes being red showed a type of judgment that he would have on the earth when he would return. It said that his garments was washed in wine, and wine is red. So at the time when he would drink and he would let it spill all over him. It had to happen because it was part of the prophecy. Now, why was that so important? Because when he returns, his garment, his royal kingly garment, will be drenched in blood. So that's why before that happened, he had to display himself as a wine bibber. He had to drink the wine and be drunk. Because when he comes back and destroys all of Edom, he's going to do that like a man drunk with a sword, cutting down everything in his wake. Yeah, that's what it's teaching us. But they won't teach you that because they try to stay away from that side, because we don't want our Jesus to appear to be drunk. He was tipsy with it. I mean, in other words, because when someone's drunk, they become wild with whatever they do. That's what it's alluding to. Well, let's prove all that. Let's go to Revelations. Let's go to Revelations real quick. Revelations. In fact, who can tell me where to go in Revelations? Because I'm giving too much away right now. So who can tell me where to go? Come on. What you got, sir?
Grace and peace, Revelation chapter 1.
No, sir. We're dealing with, I've got to be stick to the point, because otherwise we'll go off on a tangent, and I want to get through this part. And Judah is a very heavy lesson that we have to complete. Anyone? Revelations where it's at. Revelations. Anyone? Anyone? Looking at me is not going to help you, brother. You've got to look at the book. I don't know if you think you could squeeze out some kind of answer by looking at it. I don't know. Maybe you could. So, anyone? Anyone? Yes, please. Yes, ma'am. Let's go.
I'm already there, Pastor.
Read.
This is the book of Revelations, chapter 19 and verse 13. He was clothed with a vessel dipped in blood.
See? That's letting you know beforehand when he was drinking, and he was and remember the disciples weren't even sure why he was doing what he was doing. But he did it anyway, because he had to fulfill the scriptures. God. Name it and read it again from the top, sir.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 19 and verse 13. It reads, and he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood.
So vesture dipped in blood. Go on.
And his name is called.
And his name is what?
It's called the Word of Yahweh.
His name is called the Word of Yahweh. Is that right?
God.
Read on.
And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses.
Go on.
Clothed in fine linen.
Well, these are those who come now in the chariots, etc., etc., etc. Right?
White and clean.
White and clean. All right. Yes, please. There's one in the Old Testament, in case you're looking for it. The one that says his eyes are red. Go ahead. Say again.
Isaiah 63:3.
And Isaiah 63, begin at verse 1 and concluding at verse 2.
Yes.
Verse 3.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 63 and verse 1. Who is this that cometh from Edom, with dyed garments from Basra?
With what?
Dyed garments from Basra.
Dyed garments from Basra, go on.
This that is glorious in his apparel.
Now remember, in case you don't understand, and in case you're not understanding this, read it again so that I can point it out so people don't miss it. I want our people to get this.
Yes, sir.
Remember, this is all part of the 12 tribe breakdown, and this is what you need to know. Read.
This is the book of Isaiah 63 and 1.
Go on.
Who is this
The who is Yahushua, whom the world ignorant calls Jesus. Read.
that cometh from Edom?
From Edom. Edom is the white man,
Come.
right? And Basra is the capital of Edom, the land of Edom. See, that's why no one could turn and say, well, he was prepared to us. He gave you land. That's a God who, in spite of how he feels, but he gave you land, positions. Read.
With dyed garments from Basra.
Read.
This that is glorious in his apparel,
Read.
traveling in the greatness of his strength.
Go on.
I speak that in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thy apparel,
In thy apparel, go on.
and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat?
But that turns where?
In the wine fat?
In the wine fat, go on.
I have trodden the winepress alone.
Now, notice, the reason why he says that is because he's given the impression that he's going to be the one that's going to take this wretched nation out. He's going to do it. Read. Now, sir, won't tell you again. Keep going.
And I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I would tread them in mine anger.
In what?
In mine
In
anger.
his anger, go on.
And trample them in my fury.
Go on.
And their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments.
See that? Go on.
And I will stain all my raiment.
That's why when he was drinking, and he was remember when he was drinking, he wasn't just drinking it like sipping. He opened his eye and he let it pour all over him, because the symbolism was to show that he's going to be covered in blood from head to toe. In case any of you have trouble with that, go to Isaiah 34. Isaiah 34. And we're going to begin reading at verse 6. All right? In fact, why don't we begin at verse 5?
Yes, sir. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 34 and verse 5.
Very good. Let's go, sir.
For my sword shall be bathed in heaven.
See that? His sword shall be bathed in heaven. Go on.
Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea.
Idumea is another word for the Greeks and for the Romans. Go on.
And upon the people of my curse.
See? These are the people of his curse. Those are the people who are now ruling the world today.
Come.
They are people of his curse. Read.
To judgment.
To what?
To judgment.
Read, sir.
The sword of the Lord is filled with blood.
See? Go on.
It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams.
Go on.
For the Lord has a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea.
The land of Idumea.
Come.
The only scripture that I thought you would have found, and I'm not going to give it to you if you don't know where it is, one that says that his eyes were red as blood. Right? Right? Because that's a very important one. Because it helps you to understand why his eyes were red, and why when he comes the second time, his eyes are going to be red. His eyes are going. Why? Because the red represents judgment, fury, angry. A man can be so angry that there's no whites in your eyes. You just see red. Has any of you got that scripture? Anyone? Did any of you find it? Go ahead.
When we were in
Revelations 19.
we were at verse 19, right above it, verse 12.
Verse
It speaks about where they at.
Yes. Yes. Let's read that, please. His eyes
This
were.
is the
as-
book of Revelations.
Excuse me, sir.
Oh.
His eyes were as a flame of fire.
Con.
Right? So that's a good one, but I want the one that takes it a little bit further than that, if you please. Can anyone find it? Anyone? Yes, please.
Revelations 1:14.
Say again.
Revelation 1:14.
Revelations 1 and 14.
I'm there.
Right, let's read.
This is the book of Revelations, chapter 1 and 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool,
Go on.
as white as snow,
As what?
as white as snow.
White as snow. Go on.
And his eyes were as a flame of
And
fire.
his eyes are what?
It was like a flame of fire.
His eyes was as a flame of fire. Is that correct?
Con.
Now, still stay in Revelations. Go to Revelations chapter 2 and 18.
Book of Revelation, chapter 2 and 18. And unto the angel of the church in Thyatira write, these things saith the Son of Yahweh, who has his eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet are like fine brass.
All right, so as you can see, it's explaining. Read it one more time, sir. One more time.
Yes, sir. This is Revelation 2 and 18. And unto the angel of the church in Thyatira write, these things saith the Son of Yahweh, who has his eyes like unto a flame of fire, thank you, and his feet are like fine brass.
All right. So it tells you that its eyes are like fire, because fire represents judgment.
Con.
People are going to be burnt by fire. That's the second judgment. So it's judgment,
Con.
Now, when you go back to Genesis chapter 49 and verse 12.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 49 and 12. His eyes shall be red with wine.
Red with wine. Got that? Go on.
And his teeth white with milk.
And his teeth white. Now, why would they say his teeth is white as milk? Go ahead.
Yeah,
Quickly, sir.
grace and peace.
His teeth would be white with milk because he's giving the milk of the word.
Go back.
I was thinking in terms of all the blood that will be on him. But the teeth will show
His teeth is what?
that.
Well, you're partly right. But here is what it is. As black people, when we grin our teeth, what do you see more? The white teeth. And we've always been known for that. That's why when they do disparaging images of us, they always show white teeth. A big smile, white teeth. You see? Now this is why I find it odd that the knuckleheads don't even realize that the very scriptures is depicting us. Because you can't have a white person, so-called white person, grinning from ear to ear, looking white. It doesn't, the two doesn't match, you know. But when a dark-skinned person smiles and his teeth is out there, it causes, you see that. It's a tight image, all right? All right. Now let's get back to this. Go back, if you please, sir, and read verse 11. Go back and read verse 11.
This is Genesis 49 and 11. Binding his foal unto the vine,
Bind his foal unto the vine.
and his ass's coat unto the choice vine.
Go on. Now, remember that we're speaking about when he came into the city and they were trying to make him king before his time. Right? That's the prophecy that you're reading there. Come on. Right. Continue.
He washed his garments in wine.
Washed his garments in wine. Right? And part of the reason why he did all of that was because the wine spilled on him. I'm going over it. Forgive me for being redundant. It's just that I want you to get it. Because it's a depiction of what will happen at the end when he returns. All right? You with me so far? All right. So, when the scripture speaks about him being aroused, go back to the last clause of verse 9.
Yes,
Who
sir.
shall arouse him up?
Who shall rouse him up?
Who shall arouse him up? Now, the reason why that scripture there is so important is because this goes back to Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 1.
This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37 and verse 1. It reads, "The hand of the Lord was upon me,
Go on.
and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord."
Because we were like dead people. And where were we dead? This is America. This is where we are dead. Right? So, read it again, sir.
Yes, sir. Ezekiel 37 and 1. "The hand of the Lord was upon me, and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord,
And carried me out in the spirit of the Lord.
and set me down in the midst of the valley."
So the valley that is speaking about, this is America. America is the valley. It's between two major places. We have Canada up there. We have South America down there. This is the valley. Valley of dry bones. Whose dry bones? The bones of the children of God. We are the dry bones. It looks like we're dead. It looks like we're in hopelessness. Looks like nothing can ever be made good of these people. But watch what it says. Read.
"Which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about.
Go on.
And behold, there were very many in the open valley.
That's speaking about just how vast we were. Go on.
And lo, they were very dry."
They were very dry. All right. So what did you just read? Just run back.
Yes, sir. I just read Ezekiel, and I read it 1 through 2.
Is Ezekiel what, sir?
Ezekiel 37 and 1 and 2.
Okay. Read verse 1 again. Oh, you read 1 and 2, did you say?
Yes, I did.
Read 3.
This is the book of Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 3.
Just say verse 3 and read straight on, sir.
Verse 3. "And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live?
Can Israel live again? Go on.
And I answered, O Lord Yahweh, thou knowest."
Well, you're the only one who knows this, Lord. How do I know? And then he says, go on.
Yes, sir. "Again he said unto me, Prophesy upon these bones,
Prophesy upon these bones. Go on.
and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord.
Now go on.
Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live."
Now, that's now speaking about the age that we're in now. This is why the truth has now come. This is why he had put into Israel, their leadership, a new song. This is a song that even the angels can't sing. And the song that we're singing to our people is, "Awake, awake, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments." This is what we're now singing. to people who are in a valley full of hopelessness and death. But that's why the prophets are going to go and speak to the people and take even their abuse, because remember, they went to sleep. And in their sleep, they became like dead bones. And remember, the key is Judah. Judah's the one that he wants to come forward first. Are you with me so far? So now it's beginning to make sense. And I'm trying to paint the picture so historically you can get it. All right. So when we understand that now, we begin to see that only Judah can be aroused as that lion to now come and bring forth to its people to cause them to come out of their slumber. Genesis 59 and 19. Salakia 49 and 19.
This is the book of Genesis 49:19. It reads, Gad, a troop.
Salakia.
59, I'm sorry, 59. So there's no 59.
Let's go to 19. Hold on. Okay, I'm going too far. Salakia. I want you to read verse. Where were we? Bear with me just for a brief moment, if you please. All right, here we are. So, what I want us to get some understanding is that when the scepter was removed, as rightly what was said, it was in 70 AD, okay? And it was removed by the Romans. And what happened to the Jews at that point? What happened to us? What became of us? All right.
We ran some towards Africa and some towards Europe.
All right.
Different directions.
All right. So, for the most part, most of our people ran into Africa. Now, let's see if we can paint the picture of that. We're going to look at a book, because I think I want to bring that out a little bit. There's a book that I want you to become familiar with. It's called From Babylon to Timbuktu. Babylon to Timbuktu. All right. And this particular book, it's by our dear brother Rudolph R. Windsor. All right. Now, have you got a copy of that with you?
Yes, not with me, sir.
All right. All right. So, what I want to do is to have read a particular page. Let's see. All right. In the year 65 BC, that's what it went. All right.
Is it the one you sent to me?
So, Slaki?
Is it the one you sent to me? Is it the
Yes.
One?
All right. Let's begin reading, sir.
This is from the book called Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem.
He did what?
Captured Jerusalem.
Go on.
In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter during the period of the military governors of Palestine. Many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews.
Hold it. So it said 1 million Jews. Now, 1 million Jews, it's been estimated, did what?
Fled into Africa.
Fled where?
Fled into Africa.
Fled into Africa. Now, this is what I want you to see. If the Jews are white, 1 million of them, what's going to be hard about finding them there? If Jews are white, running into Africa, what's going to be hard about finding you over there? Which clearly lets you know that the Jews have never been white. The Jews are black.
That's right.
Read.
Fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery.
Roman persecution and slavery. Is that correct? Read on.
The slave markets was full of black Jewish slaves.
Well, full of what?
Black Jewish slaves.
Black Jewish slaves. Go on.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other.
One end of the earth even unto the other. Hold it there. Just turn that over. Hold it there. I want you to go to Deuteronomy chapter 33. The book of Deuteronomy chapter 33, we're going to begin reading at verse 7.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33 and verse 7.
Let's read.
And this is the blessing of Judah. And he said, Hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people. Let his hands be sufficient for him.
Let his what?
Hands be sufficient for him. And be thou an help to him from his enemies.
From what?
From his enemies.
From his enemies. Read it again, sir.
Deuteronomy 33 and 7. And this is the blessing of Judah.
So it says, this is the blessings of Judah. Go on.
And he said, Hear, Lord, the voice of Judah.
Hear, Lord, the voice of Judah. Go on.
And bring him unto his people.
And bring him unto his people.
Let his hands be sufficient for him.
For who?
For him.
For him. Go on.
And be thou an help to him from his enemies.
So you see that it's been prophesied that Judah is going to get help from the Most High God. Come. Let's go to Joel chapter 3. Because it's letting us know that the 12 tribes must hear from Judah.
Yes, sir. Good there, sir.
Now, the reason why this is important, brothers and sisters, because we as a people, we don't like to listen to our own people. So you get quiet in here now, because there should have been at least two. I mean, at that point, at least two, because we don't like listening to our people. So, Joel chapter 3, begin at verse 1. Listen carefully now.
This is the book of Joel, chapter 3 and 1. For behold, in those days.
For what?
For those days.
Go on.
And in that time.
And in what?
In that time.
And in that time, go on.
When I shall bring again the captivity of Judah.
Hold it. He says he's going to bring again the captivity of Judah. Read.
And Jerusalem.
And Jerusalem. Are you seeing that? Read.
I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of...
Let's drop that, jump to verse 3. Time purpose.
Verse 3. And they have cast lots for my people.
They have cast lots for our people. Go on.
And have given a boy for an harlot.
So they were using our boys as sex objects. Now, this is why if you ever wonder how did our people get so mixed up in that weak and beggary element of Esau's world, is because of those things that they did to our children.
Con.
Remember, this is the same man who's secretly, they're trying to pass a law to allow pedophilia to be legal.
Con.
Right now, they're in the midst of passing it. There's even a flag that they now have. And what the flag is that it's like a color that people will wear, and the man will know which boy has a desire that way. And the boy or the girl will know who has a desire. And because we don't know what the flag looks like, I know what the flag looks like, you won't even identify with it. This is the enemy. People you call your best friends. And it said, and they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine. Read.
That they might drink.
So they trained our children into sex objects from a young age.
Con.
And you got to know that the white man, he likes playing with little children.
Con.
Why do you think those Amaleks who go and call themselves rabbis and all this business? Did you know, some of you, the others of you know this, but some of you don't, that when they examine the mouth of one of those rabbis who does the circumcision, that his mouth is filled with gonorrhea? That's why now because what they used to, when they did the circumcision of the little boys, they would suck the blood. But when they checked out their mouth, because they wondered how is it that it's being passed on to all these children that just had newly been circumcised? It's because the so-called rabbi, his mouth is filled with gonorrhea. Now, isn't that something? And then it says in verse 4, read.
Yes, sir. Yea, and what have ye to do with me?
Go on.
O Tyre.
Oh, what?
O Tyre.
Read.
And Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine. Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head.
See that? This is, read on.
Because ye have taken my
You
silver,
have taken what?
my silver,
Read.
and my gold,
Go on.
and have carried into your temples my goodly, pleasant things.
Right? 70 AD, they did all of that. You'll find that written in 1 Maccabees chapter 3, 41. Read.
The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians.
Sold unto the white nations.
God.
Now remember, what I was hoping that one of you would have caught, which you didn't, was that when we were reading back at verse 4, it said that ye and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? These were the Hamites who sold us. You see, they sold us to the white nations. Now people say, well, what's the difference between you and I? Well, there is a lot of difference between. The same way you could look at a Chinese person, know the difference between a Chinese and a Japanese, it's the same way you could know the difference between a Negroid and a Hamite.
That's right.
There is a big difference. If you went over there now, they would know exactly who you are. And what I was hoping that you would have seen is that these are the nations that sold you ultimately, in verse 6, to the Grecians.
God.
Are you seeing this? Is everybody seeing this? I mean, are you getting this? Or am I speaking?
Kind.
But I really want you to get this, because sometimes we read the scriptures over and over and we read it so that we miss out what's right in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it said, you sold unto the Grecians, read,
that ye might remove them far from their borders.
far from their borders. And far from their borders is where?
US.
Right here, the United
Come,
States
come.
of America. That's heavy. That's incredibly heavy. So when we go back now, and we begin to see, the children of Judah have been, remember, are included with Benjamin and Levi. Remember, Levi does not get an inheritance. They don't get it. They messed up, and therefore the Lord took that away from them. They don't get an inheritance. We read about that and studied that last week when we did the breakdowns. Con? Let me explain, so I won't go over that again. Con? Now, do we have any pictures? Let's see if we can pull up some of those slave pictures that we have in the slave ships and so on. Because I want to show you something horrific here. Now remember, this is all part of the 12-tribe breakdown, but trying to give you more detail. Do you know how they survived those many weeks on the sea? Some of them, it took even longer. How do you think they survived? With limited water, limited ration. Go ahead.
Grace and peace. Sir, they ate the people that died.
Yeah.
They ate them.
They ate our corpse. It's a fact. Some of you, I'm not going to do it just yet. I've got a book that I'm going to show you. But it states that one of the delicacies that Esau loves. In fact, let me do one better. Can you just give me a second? Let me pull something up for you. I think this will be greatly. I'm going to send you over a couple of things, and we're going to read that because sometimes some things have to be read. And this is from the newspapers. And in this, let's see if I could pull this information. I want it to be legible. No, I sent that out to you, Doctor. So you know.
Oh yeah, I'll just.
So if I don't have it and I sent it to you, there's something definitely gone wrong with this whole matter here.
Sorry, Pastor, I just said
That's all right. That's all right.
There's some cookie you Negroes have. Thank you.
I'm just going to send over just a couple. So we should have that with you, ma'am, in a few seconds. They took great pleasure in eating our flesh and stewing it up. Now that's hard to even believe, isn't it? Well, we're going to show you we're going to show you newspaper articles, because and no wonder they are afraid of. We just can't allow them to teach everything because too many things are going to come out. We don't want them to know that about us.
CRT, yes.
You see, but let me know when you have it up, ma'am, because let's see if we can get one other. In fact, why don't you read the one that you have? Johanna, go ahead and read the one that you have.
Yes, sir.
I think that's one I sent you. Go ahead.
All right. This is one that's Sunday, and the cooked Negro was carved and passed around to the congregation in place of unleavened bread, that the solemn feast might be remembered by the devout.
I'm sorry. I can't hold my back. I'm sorry. That's heavy, isn't it? Now, remember, if you look at the condition that we were in on those ships, it's no telling why we would die.
Yeah.
You see? And instead of throwing away the bodies, they would carve it up, and they would make the meats so that they would sell them in the markets when they also arrived. You see? I know it's hard, But listen, I have the sources. I have the books written by the way, by their people. We didn't write any of this. Sister Dolores, we didn't write any of this. Brother Isaiah, we didn't write any of this. They wrote it. Right. Hold up, sir. So, finish reading, sir.
That was it.
That was it?
I have another one.
Yeah, read the other one.
All right, this year is called Slices of Cooked Negro.
Yeah.
Reverend L.R. Broughton, pastor of the Baptist Tabernacle.
Hold it. You got to slow that down.
Oh, okay.
Because I need our brothers to understand. This is the church.
Yes, yes.
See?
Yes, sir.
Read.
Reverend L.R. Broughton, pastor of the Baptist Tabernacle in Atlanta, Georgia, received by mail recently from Palmetto, Georgia. The scene of the recent lynching, several slices of burned flesh cut from the body of Sam Hobbs, who was burned at the stake near Newman. With this was several onions and a note suggesting that as Dr. Broughton loved the Negro, the enclosed might make for him a palatable dish. Or, if he preferred, he might make a Brunswick stew. I can't get the
All right,
sign.
you can leave the rest.
Yes.
Now, there's the newspaper.
Yes.
Go ahead and read this out.
Yes, sir. Sunday, and the cooked Negro was carved and passed around to the congregation in place of unleavened bread, that the solemn feast might be remembered by the devout worshipers as one of Christian exaltation.
Now, I know it's difficult, but this will help you to understand the enormity of what took place with our people. I sent you one more, see if you can pull that one up.
Barbecue coon.
Cooked Negro ears, nose, fingers, and liver. It says it's a certainly a new dish, but it ought to be. Right. Let's go. Go ahead. Read so.
Yes. Barbecue coon. Barbecue Negro is a very common occurrence in Georgia and Alabama.
Now, did you know this though? I know it's I know it's difficult. They said, where did you dig it up from? These things still exist, man. It's not, and by the way, they haven't hid it. It's out there to find. It's just that they don't make it public because it makes. Remember, they've been calling us savages and jungle bunnies and all this stuff over the years. All of a sudden, to realize that they're the ones who've been doing it. And by the way, in case you missed it, they're still doing it to this very day. To this very day. That's a whole nother teaching. I won't want to get into it. Go ahead and finish it, sir.
Yes, sir. There is an unwritten law which stands out in no uncertain warning to the demon in human form who, without the fear of God in his heart and the wanton disregard for the laws of morality and humanity, shall invade the sacred precincts of the homes of this land and country to satisfy his fiendish desires, just so long as the raped tent is abroad in the land. Just that long will there be barbecue coon or whatever the color may be, and all the written laws of man are powerless to prevent it.
Okay, let's get back on track, shall we?
Come.
I'm sorry to, wig you out with that a little bit. But Just to be clear, the first white supremacy group of people, do you remember who they are? The first. By show of hands, can you tell me who is the first, or who was the first ruling emperor or empire of white supremacists? Tell me, sir. Isaiah, tell me.
The first ruling empire of white supremacy was
The first ruling empire of white supremacy were the Greeks.
The Grecians. All right, thank you. And they were the ones who also tried to make themselves into the Egyptians as well. Because they wanted that, the legacy of all of those artifacts to be theirs and be a remembrance of them. All of what you know as Greek wisdom was stolen because all of it comes from the Egyptians. The father of medicine, they always say that it's an Egyptian man. He's not. Who remembers or knows the name of the father of medicine on the Egyptian side? Yeah. Well, I thought the sisters would know since we have a lot of medical people here. Look it up if you want. But who was the father of medicine according to the Greeks? The father of medicine according to the Egyptians. Who knows that one? Yes, sir?
grace and peace. It's
One
said
moment.
Grace and peace is said that it's Imhotep.
Say it again, sir.
Grace and peace is said that it's Imhotep.
Yeah, Imhotep, yes. He is the true father of all medicine because he was doing brain surgery, heart transplants, and all of those things going way, way back, even back then. And it's not surprising to know that the first heart transplant was done by, I think it was, what's his name? Was it Bernard? The South African black man. So, again, our people have always been cutting edge, All right, so who was it go ahead, sir.
I want to add one other thing. It's also
Said that Imhotep was possibly Joseph. That's in some writings that I've seen.
Yeah, I've heard that too, but I don't want to get deep into that. I just want to keep it very simple because I've got a long way to go. So who was it in the Greeks? Can anyone tell me? Say again? Who was the father of medicine in the Greeks? Say it again? Hippocrates. Yes, Hippocrates. Right. But he really wasn't. He went and he studied for years at the Egyptian school, and he stayed there for many, many, many years. When you read the information that goes along with his life, okay. Well, let's get back to Timbuktu, Babylon to Timbuktu, and can we also get Jeremiah chapter 14 and 2, please? Jeremiah chapter 14 and 2. Right, have that in readiness.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's go back and read what we just left off, page 91.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back. The page where we at? Page
It was 84,
82. 82.
It was 84.
Was 84?
Yes, sir.
All right, yes.
You want to read that
Yeah,
again?
read it all the way down to the end.
Yes, sir. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state
Go on.
with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people.
Go on.
During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa.
Go on.
Fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery,
Go on.
the slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
Read on.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people,
Go on.
from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Wood and stone. Right, drop that, Jeremiah chapter 14 and 2.
Jeremiah 14 and 2.
Let's read.
Judah mourneth.
Judah what?
Mourneth.
Judah mourneth. The mourning of Judah, that's a prophecy of Judah mourning in America. Go on.
And the gates thereof languish.
The gates thereof languish, meaning the leadership is languishing in terms of what they should be doing. Read.
They are black.
They are what?
They are black.
They are black. Notice, our black men and black women, we've gone into things like the Muslim faith. Some of us are following what's called Afrocentrism or something of that nature. Go on.
Unto the ground.
And we have gone so far as to even eliminated the Bible and said, and we're saying things like the Bible is not our book, etc., etc. The Bible is very much our book. It's nobody's book but our book, because all the characters in the book look like us.
Con.
And the scripture tells us here, as we've just read, it said here that they are black.
Con.
They are black. How?
Unto the ground.
Go on.
And the cry of Jerusalem is gone up.
The cry of Jerusalem has gone up. Let's go to the second book that I want us to read. The second book here is called Race and Sex, or Sex and Race. And it is by J.A. Rogers. J.A. Rogers. All right. Page I want you to begin reading on. Let's see. There we go. Let's begin reading, please.
This book is called Sex and Race, Negro Caucasian Mixing in All Ages and All Lands by J.A. Rogers.
J.A. Rogers. Yes.
Page 91. But the earliest Jews were in all probability Negroes.
So what?
Negroes.
It said the earliest Jews were in all probability were Negroes. Go on.
Abraham, their ancestor, is said to have come from Chaldea, and the ancient Chaldeans were black.
So even the historian there lets you know that the ancient Chaldeans were indeed black. Go on.
The Chaldees, says Higgins, were originally Negroes. As was said too, relics of prehistoric Negroes have been discovered in this region. It is even possible that the Jews originated not in Asia, but in Africa.
But where?
But in Africa.
But in Africa. Go on.
Gerald Massey has advanced considerable argument in proof of that theory. Whatever was the original color of the Jews, they lived for more than 4 centuries among the Negroid Egyptians. Their supposed oppressor, the pharaoh Merneptah, shows marked Negroid traits. Only 70 Jews went to Egypt, but according to the Bible, 600,000 men left it, which must have meant an additional 2 or 3 million women and children. Since the Jews were slaves, their women were undoubtedly concubines of the Egyptians and must have produced mixed offspring. After more than 3 centuries of slavery, almost every trace of the first 70 Jews must have been lost, together with their culture. Thus, Jewish culture was Egyptian culture. For instance, the Egyptians did not eat pork and still do not eat it. To get an idea.
Okay, Doc.
Yes, sir.
We can stop there now. All right, any questions on that so far? Any questions on that? What I wanted to do, I wanted to show some images of, it's a bit late now, but of some Caucasian people or I should say black people who look Caucasian, because there's a lot of those in the world. You don't find a lot of them here in America, but in Europe there's a lot of them. They look like they are Caucasian, but they're really black men and black women. Over here, what part of America would you say that's more plenteous? Kennedy, what part of America? Yeah, black people who look more New Orleans. Okay. Right. Why is that? Okay. All right. So we have our people. Let's take it a step further. This is another book. This is called Nature Knows No Color Line. So this book is by J.A. Rogers also. So let's have you. Let's see. Page 123. Where you want to go. Bear with me. All right. We're going to read the highlighted section there, sir, and then we're going to jump across to page 130. All right? So we're going to read 123, and then once we finish the highlighted section there, we will read only the highlighted sections, and we'll go across to page 130. All right?
This book is called Nature Knows No Color Line by J.A. Rogers. This is on page 123. Waite says, an interesting gradation of all shades down to the black is exhibited by the Jews.
Read it again, please.
Waite says, an interesting gradation of all shades down.
So a gradation meaning grading down or degrading. Go on.
Of all shades down to the black is exhibited by the Jews.
By the Jews. So that's us. Why? Because we have been forced into relationships that have changed our color hue. Go on.
Especially dark were the Jews of Spain and Portugal.
So it's letting you know that going back to even the Middle Ages, what they call the Middle Ages, blacks in Spain were very dark. Go on.
The Portuguese Jews were very dark, says Pritchard.
Right, now the original Portuguese were black. You've got to remember that. The original Spaniards were black. You see? But because obviously the invasion, that changed a lot of that. Continue.
The Duchess de Abrantes, wife of Napoleon's ambassador to Portugal, said that the Jew, the Negro, and the Portuguese could be seen in a single person. So dark were the Jews, especially of Portugal and southern Spain, that many whites thought all Jews were black or dark.
Now, the reason why it's important for you to remember that, and if you don't make a note, please make a note, that the Jews of Spain were black. If you don't make a note of it, and you don't keep that in memory, part of this teaching is to show you that these are the 12 tribes breakdown. But on top of that, when we do further teachings in the future, it will explain why there was a Spanish Inquisition. Because the Spanish Inquisition was done purely on black people, not white people.
Right.
I know you have been taught that, but the Spanish Inquisition was on black people. Remember, Iberians are black, who are origins of Spain. Read, sir.
This belief, said Barbo, shows what an error most people are in since he says the German Jews.
See? Go on.
as for example, those of Prague are as white as most of their German countrymen.
Read.
Many of the Jews were banished from Portugal by John II, settled in the West Indies.
So that John II, he was one of the kings who eventually banished all of the black Jews to other countries. Must remember that. Remember, the original Irishman was black. They banished them to Barbados. That's why the Barbadians speak with a slight West Indian and Irish tonation. They sound kind of strange. So that's where all that comes. And Christopher Cromwell, he did all of that. He kicked out all of the gentry that you knew of England, especially those camps who are watching from England right now. A lot of your high people of note in England, their origins were black. When Cromwell kicked them out and killed them, he had commoners go in and take their name and take their place and their wealth. They don't teach that in school either. But go on, sir, let's finish this.
John Bigelow, who visited Jamaica in 1850.
Notice the date. He visited Jamaica in
50.
50. Go on.
Saw the descendants of these Jews.
He saw the descendants of the Jews, which lets you know that over in Jamaica and many of the other islands are black people who are Jews and don't even know it. Read, sir.
And says they were Negroid.
See? Have you finished?
No, sir.
Go on.
The Eastern Jews who settled in Austria.
In where?
In Austria.
In Austria, go on.
Poland. And Russia. Were Negroids too.
There you go. See that? This is the information that we have to prove all of that. Khan? Do we have any questions from anyone? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Earlier on, you were saying how they survived during the journey. What about our people? How did they survive in the bottom of the ship? I mean,
Well, a lot of them didn't survive. 30% of the people who were brought over by ships, 30% of them, they say, died because of the conditions. They weren't feeding them. They couldn't feed them properly. The journey was long. They only had enough food for the crew, not for the slaves. And some of the ships had from 50 to 100 slaves. Making that journey, you don't carry that much food. But what the crew banked on, because it's a common knowledge, not taught, not openly discussed, that a dead Negro was food to them. They'd cut the thighs, the buttocks, the chest, the arms. They would cook them. That's how they survived. The meat that was left, they salted it and they sold it in the marketplaces as per the prophets when they got here. It's a well-known fact. It's not even something that one could say, well, you know, you're making. No, it was well known. Because remember, even over here in America, even the idea of a dead Negro was meat, and they sent it all over the place, especially at a lynching. That's part of the reason why they used to bake or burn the Negro. And that's why so many of them were there. They wanted a piece to take with them. See, there's more, but I don't want to jump on that because that's a teaching that we got down the road, and I've got several other books by their own people who wrote this. You know, when certain presidential individuals, they've got something called the Brotherhood of the Owls. Part of it is that they would they would put the Negro body on the table, and they would put food on the Negro person. and they would sit at it, and we're talking about Clinton and all those people, all of them, and they would eat from the body, the food. They said somehow it coming from the Negro body, it tasted better. They weren't dead, by the way. These were Negroes who volunteered to lay there. See? So, you know, as I said, we'll get that, but we'll get that down the road. As I said, I don't want to convolute that with what we're doing here. All right? Okay. So what I want to say, let's go to Luke chapter 21, please. Luke chapter 21, and then I want to go into Issachar and Zebulun, and then we'll close. Issachar and Zebulun is not long, but I do require your attention to that. Okay, so Luke chapter 21, verse 20. Luke chapter 21, verse 20.
Yes, sir. This is the book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 30. It reads.
No, 20. 21 and 20.
21, 20, sorry.
Because I want to just ensure to you that the 70 AD, it's a biblical phenomenon as well as historical phenomenon.
This is St. Luke and 21 and 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
That's 70 AD. Go on.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountain,
Go on.
and let them which are in the midst of it depart out,
Go on.
and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto.
All right, which refers back to Deuteronomy chapter 28, 63 through to 49. Go on.
For these be the days of vengeance.
Read that again.
For these be the days of vengeance,
Read.
that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
May be fulfilled. This is the time that we're in. We're in the fulfillment of that. Go on.
Gone.
Right. At this time, I want you to go back to Genesis chapter 49. Yes. Genesis 49. We're going to begin reading, if you please, at verse 13. We're going to cover now Issachar and Zebulun. Issachar and Zebulun.
This is the book of Genesis 49 and 13.
Read.
Zebulun should dwell at the haven of the sea.
Now, Zebulun and the haven of the sea, because the land of Zebulun. In fact, let's discover. I think I have a map to show. In fact, let me pull some other things. I have a map that shows Zebulun. Zebulun, their land is. If we pull that map up for me, please. Thank you. Their land is the land that shows. It shows the connection from South America into what they call Central America. All right. Central America is what is really called Mexico. Is that right? Come on, you went to school here. I mean, everybody's getting quiet. Because Mexico, all right, what do you call Central America? Go ahead, sir.
We call Central America from Guatemala,
Yes,
El
I know.
Salvadorian, because Mexico, they say, is part of North America. And so the Panama, which was originally South America.
Right.
That's
now,
where it is.
Now, they have said that that Mexico is part of North America, but that's not how it really went. That's how it goes for them using the information to their advantage. But when you're looking up there and you see this particular map, there is Mexico to the far northwest. Have you seen that? At the very bottom there, you're seeing Costa Rica, right?
Right.
Then you see Nicaragua and you see Guatemala, right?
Right.
Now, further up to the north east, you have Cuba. I remember Cuba, it's a Hebrew word. All right. Then when we drop back down, I'm sorry, I can't make up the name of that one at the bottom.
Medallions, Mississippi.
Yeah. Right there, That city right there, if you could pull it up and find the name of that, I'd be much appreciated.
Medallion.
Right? And I need the exact name. Is that the exact name? sir?
That's the exact name.
That's the exact name. Okay.
City.
Medellin, did you say?
Medallion.
All right, then I'm going to take your word for it.
Yes, sir.
Right there, to where you see the M is, that is where the Panama Canal takes place. Right there. Now, in order to understand this, I think we want to show the Panama Canal, if you please. Now, the Panama Canal, these are the places where, according to the scripture, when we read Genesis again, please.
Yes, sir. This is the book of Genesis 49:13. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea.
Now, when it says the haven of the sea, that's another way of saying the heavens of the sea. Because all ships will come to this particular part. Because here, what you're going to see is how they can have two great ships, pass side by side and go straight away across to the other side. So it connects the west coast to the east coast. It saves so much money because to get to the east coast, you have to drive all the way down South America, then go around the horn of South America and travel all the way back up. That's months of traveling, months of seaworthiness in order to accomplish that. This particular way across saves a great deal of time and money, but more importantly, what it does, it has brought great wealth to Panama. It's brought great wealth to them. And Zebulun's is part of Guatemala and the Panamanian, of course, and they are the Mayans. They are the historical Mayans because they are at the haven of the sea. All ships converge upon them. All countries have to pass through them in order for that wealth to take place. It's heavy, isn't it? So this is part of the history of those two countries, you see, and those are the two tribes, and you'll find that the two tribes who work together closely here because they're in close proximity to each other. Are you with me so far?
Yes, Con.
All right. So, has anyone ever been to Panama? Yeah. One person been to Panama? Okay. Wow. Panama is meant to be a very picturesque country. All right, because again, but it also had its downtroddenness because there's been lots of revolutions that's occurred there because of the fact that everybody wants the position to control that part of the world because you control the docking and the shipping yard. You see, that's why they call Panama the Panama Zone. That's another term that you'll use more frequently for the area because of this vastness of wealth that goes through there. All right? The amazing thing is that the countries themselves don't make the real money. It's America's who makes the money because they replace certain individuals and put people in power in order for them to reap the real wealth, whilst the countries continue to remain in a state of poverty. See that? Now, let's go back and read verse 13 again, please, and read it completely.
Genesis 49 and 13. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea.
Dwell where?
The haven of the sea.
Go on.
And he shall be for an haven of ships.
See, a haven of ships, go on.
And his border shall be unto Zidon.
Be unto Zidon. Now, when it uses that, because it's going back to when we were originally over in our land. Because where is Zidon? Zidon is a Hamite country, right? So that's where all that comes from. Because the same thing that they were there, the Most High God spoke it, and they had to become the same thing again over in the New World. But that's been their era. That's where they've always kept themselves. Now, when we read on a little bit, let's read on verse 14.
Issachar is a strong as couching.
Now, Issachar is the Mexicans, but they are also going back to the ancient Aztecs. The ancient Aztecs. Now, who can tell me, what does the word Issachar mean? Who could tell me, what does the word Issachar mean? I want to send you some pictures. I need to put those up there. Could you put up the Mayan terracotta?
Oh, okay.
It's actually named as well. Can anyone tell me? And the reason why I want to show you that image, because I want to show you that sometimes they try to make it look like I was going to airdrop you another one or two, but not that many. Oh, so lucky. Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Excuse me. The name Issachar means recompense, reward.
Recompense. Have you got it? Well, prove it, sir.
We're going to find, two places, but I'm also going to find where named it.
Right? Because you can if you don't mind. The reason why we have to prove all things, sir, is because we have to ensure that none of us leave here with information that is misleading. This is a lovely picture. Send it.
Genesis 35:23.
All right, let's read it.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 35 and verse 23. It reads, the sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon, and Levi, and Judah, and Issachar, and Zebulun.
Malachi, could you go to
30:18. Genesis 30 and 18. And Leah said, Yahweh has given me my hire, because I have given my maiden.
Hold it. Read it again, sir.
And Leah said, Yahweh has given me my hire.
My what?
Hire.
My hire, go on.
Because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar.
Did you call his name Issachar? All right, now, what is always associated? Now, when you see that picture there, it tells you who it is, but which tribe is that? I told you earlier, so you know this would be a good example as to whether people are really taking notes or not. Huh? So, at the back, it's what? It's Issachar. Are you sure about that? That's not what I said. I know I sound like I said that. I do talk gibberish every now and then, but I don't think I'm all that bad on this occasion. All right. Notice the word that is there. So the Mayans are who? That's all right. That's all right. Zebulun, well done. Well done, Zebulun. Also, Pastor Thompson doesn't get told that he said something. That's all right. No, I'm okay with it. All right, so that's Zebulun. Now, the reason why I wanted that to show you, when anyone tries to tell you that we look more European, how does that look European? If that don't look like some of our folk after they've had a good 3-course meal, I don't know what. Nice rosy cheeks, nice thick lips, strong chin, strong head, decent sized ears. With that, those are ringlets coming out of the ears, by the way, on the side. You know, good breathable nostrils. This is our ancient ancestral brethren, and that's the Mayans, right? Okay, now that we have that, I sent you. Now I want to deal a little bit with Issachar. Issachar is always associated with burro, right? A burro. What is a burro? A donkey. Burro. And so we are associated, Issachar, I should say, is associated with donkeys or an ass or the giant sombrero. All right, good. So we have that. So they're associated with that. So I was trying to send some images that you could have that there. So let me just quickly send some images of that so that you get an idea that this is all about our people. And they are our people, by the way. So we're going to look at several images. Oh, so there he is on the burro. And you know, notice, he's proud of that donkey too. Because that's like a car. That would take him everywhere. He can store that thing up with as many weight, and the donkey will not complain, but it will haul that weight to whatever direction that this man wants it to go in. All he has to do is give it good fodder and some water, and it will be good to go. Yes, sir.
Okay, you said earlier, what was the meaning of the word Issachar?
Yes.
It's an ass with a burden on each side.
Well, no, that's the name of the that's the name of Issachar, but that's not what his name actually means. His name, who could tell me? Well, you had your hand up, go ahead.
Khan, it was famous for telling the times and the seasons.
No. The name Issachar actually means something. We'll write this down. It means he is hired. Now that will help you to understand why anybody wants to build anything, where do you think they go?
That's true.
You know, some people look at it that it's non-flattering. Some people look at it that it is, but it is primarily that's what Issachar. The one thing with Issachar is that their labor, they will labor for almost nothing. It's not fair. It's not right either. But they're taken advantage of because of those things. But the beauty of those people is that they will work and they will not complain. Certainly won't complain in front of you. And they are hard workers. Now, people like to say that black people are not hard workers. They are, because they built this country, so shut up about that. The main thing that I want people to understand is this, that with our people, we're tired now of working for nothing. Let's make that clear. 400 years for no pay. I think somebody owes somebody some back pay somewhere. So that's where we are when it comes down to these things. All right. Now, let's look at a couple of things real quickly, if you please. Go back to Genesis chapter 49 and read verse 14 again for me, please.
This is the book of Genesis 49 and 14.
Yes.
Issachar is a strong ass couching down between.
He's going to read it a bit slower.
Yes, sir. Issachar is a strong ass.
He's a strong ass. Go on.
Crouching down
between
two burdens.
Two burdens. Why? Because they are between South America and North America. That's what that means. In fact, it is their country that pretty much holds the two together. See? Hence why the name Central America.
Got it.
Central to hold the two together.
Got it.
And remember, donkeys are strong.
Con.
See? So it's symbolism, of course, but symbolism that means something. And remember, the symbolism goes all the way back to scripture times. The Most High knew that our people would be in these positions in the future. All right?
Con.
Now, the word Panama, what does it mean? The name Panama, I should say. What does it mean? Panama. My mother has some roots in Panama. Panama. It means the riches of the sea. The riches of the sea. That's why the very Panama zone, it has brought them riches because of that. The very name Panama means the riches of the sea. Con? All right. Just got a few more things, and then we're literally at the end, so it's not quite to go, but I would like to put some scripture. Let's go to Deuteronomy 33, please. Deuteronomy chapter 33, and I want us to read verse 18. Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 18, if you please.
Yes, sir. It's the book.
Can we just go through all of the images?
Copyrights. Anything that has those symbols in there, the
Yeah.
copyright.
I'd like you to flash it, though.
Okay.
Right, so we won't hold it for any long length of time. We'll just flash it. Go ahead.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33 and 18. And of Zebulun, he said, Rejoice, Zebulun.
Now, this is Zebulun now. He says what?
Rejoice, Zebulun,
Go on.
and thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents.
In thy tents. Now, who's in their tents? Huh? No, not Judah. Read it again, please.
This is Deuteronomy 33 and 18. And Zebulun, he
So,
said,
we'll just slow it down a little bit.
Yes, sir.
We're nearly finished, but we're not speeding through. Go on.
And of Zebulun, he said, Rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out.
So remember, it said, and of Zebulun, he said, Rejoice, Zebulun, in thy goings out. Go on.
And Issachar in thy tents.
So who's in his tent? Issachar. And who is Issachar? They're the Aztecs, right? But the other brother, he is the Mayans. Con? All right. Now, see this picture here? That's a picture of our brothers in their ancient garb, their headpieces, lots of feathery type colors to make good the head dress. And as we'll go through that, we'll go through a few, just keep flashing them if you please. That's one. And let's read, where are we? So
We stopped at 33 and 18.
stopped at 33 and 18.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's run, if you please, to Hosea chapter 8 and 13.
Yes, sir.
Now you've got to remember that when the conquistadors came and they found the Aztecs, they found them doing something. And these are the Aztecians type. The images that I had, I sent some last week. I hope we can pull them up this week, showing them cutting the hearts out of the peoples and eating them. Let's see if we can find those images. In fact, I don't need to resend it because I think you have it in the file there. We showed that they cut the heart out, they ate the heart, and so on. This is one image. I don't think I've sent this one. So when they came, they saw the conquistadors us in these great temples that they were quite fascinated and mind blown, but they couldn't quite understand the relationship between the having such great architecture and great cities, yet we were killing our people and eating their hearts. This is part of the prophecy that comes from the scriptures, and we'll prove that too right now. Let's read, if you please. Those images will come up at some point. But let's read Hosea chapter 8.
Yes, sir.
Chapter 8, and when you're there,
I'm there.
all right, let me get there too then.
Yes, sir.
Hosea chapter 8, and we're going to read verse 13. And we're going to read it slowly, because if we read it too quickly, we're going to fly past the main point. So Hosea chapter 8 and 13, begin reading if you please.
They sacrifice flesh.
See? So notice, the Most High had this written, hundreds of years before we went over to the Americas and before we fell back. And remember, the whole purpose of why we left the lands was because we wanted to worship as we chose to. Quickly, go there if you please. Go to 2nd Ezra, chapter 17, 13, and read verse 14 real quick.
Yes, this is the book of, it's in the Apocrypha, the book of 2nd Esdras, and it's chapter 13.
I want you to read verse 41 on down.
Yes, sir. 13:41. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt.
Read.
That they might there keep their statutes.
Do what?
Keep their statutes.
Keep their statutes.
Which they never kept in their own land.
In their own land. See that?
Yes, sir.
So look here. This is them now cutting out a person's arm. And another image I believe that you have from last week, it shows them having it on a stake and they're eating it. You see? These are images that were painted by the conquistadors when they came over. You see? But you'll notice that they kept their skin tone very light, because the original Mayans and Aztecs were in fact very dark-skinned people. So let's read verse 13, Hosea 8 and 13.
Hosea 8 and 13, they sacrifice flesh for the sacrifices of mine offerings.
See that? So they sacrifice flesh for the Most High's offering. Now, why would he say it like that? Because the flesh that they sacrificed was not flesh of animals, but flesh of people. Read.
And eat it.
And what?
And eat it.
So the scriptures is telling us that they ate it. Read.
But the Lord accepted them not.
So he wouldn't accept it. You're doing human sacrifices, and you're cutting the hearts and eating it, and you want me to receive this? Read.
Now will he remember their iniquity.
So he said, I'm going to remember your iniquities. Read.
And visit their sins.
And says, I'm going to visit your sins. Go on.
And they shall return to Egypt.
So the word Egypt here means bondage. I'm going to cause you to return back to bondage.
God.
And so what did he do? How did he do it? Read on.
For Israel has forgotten his maker.
Go on.
And builded temples, and Judah has multiplied fenced cities. But I will send a fire upon his cities, and it shall devour the places thereof.
So what did he do? The fire that he sent the conquistadors from Spain over there, which put them in shackles and made them slaves again, and that's what they ended up. Not that one. The one that I'll send it to you again.
Okay.
I'll send it to you again. You can put the stone images out. I sent you a stone image of one of the their stone gods.
Did you send it just recently?
It's just a minute ago.
Yeah, that one I didn't like it either. A couple of them didn't come
All
through.
right, I'm going to send this to you again.
Okay.
I'll send you a few. So I've sent you the one of the stone image, and let's send you one of them eating the flesh, so that we can make sure everybody is clear on that. One more. So, all right. So whilst those images are coming up, you could see right here that the Most High knew that they were going to mess up like that. He knew they were. So what did he do? He sent the conquistadors. They came and they slaughtered them and put them in slavery. Put them back in Egypt. They shall return to Egypt. They shall return to bondage. And that's what all that is about. Because sometimes when you first read that, you wonder, why does it say that? I mean, how did they give it to Egypt? Well, what that's about is sending in others who will come and overpower them and make them subjugated to their laws. Khan? All right. Any questions so far? All right, I have one piece of information that I want to read, and then I'm going to stop right there.
Yes, sir.
This particular book, it is called The Hope of Israel. The Hope of Israel, and it's by Manasseh ben Israel. All right, Manasseh ben Israel. Come on, Doc. Yeah, this is the Sodi mark.
Yes, sir.
All right, so that's what we're going to be dealing with. Okay, so here we are. Manasseh ben Israel. And the page should be already marked, sir. Let me see what you got.
Yes, I got it. Page 112.
Yeah, sir, show it to me so I can see. Okay, so the highlighted sections.
Yes, sir.
Very good. For the time, I just want to do that. Let's read, if we please.
This book is The Hope of Israel by Manasseh ben Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It reads, I shall speak somewhat in this discourse of the divers opinions which have been, and shall declare in what countries it is thought the 10 tribes are. And I shall close after that I have brought them into their own country.
Go on.
I shall prove by good reasons, following the revelations of thy holy prophets, whom I believe cannot be expounded otherwise. Whatever some think, yet I intend not to dispute these things, but according to my customs, shall lay down fairly and faithfully the opinions of the Jews only.
Read.
You must know, therefore, that Alexo Venegas says that the first colonies of the West Indies were of the Carthaginians, who first of all inhabited Hispaniola.
Mm-hmm.
And as they increased, spread to the islands of Cuba, from this to the continent of America.
Right, so when you use the word Carthaginian, it's another way of talking about black people. Go on.
And after that, towards Panama, New Spain, and Peru. And the grounds his assertion on that reason, that as Carthaginians, who of old did most use the seas, so those of Peru and the inhabitants of New Spain did make use of pictures instead of letters.
So what it is, it's really trying to explain to us right there, is that these individuals who were in those areas, our people were traveling to those areas long before Columbus got there. You see, there are a couple of myths that they teach that black people can't circumnavigate the seas. That's garbage, because we've been doing that almost from the beginning. And if our people could not circumnavigate the seas, I don't know how we quite made it into the ark for the flood.
Yeah.
Because that's a gigantic vessel. And we made that, and it didn't sink and drown any of us. And it brought all the animals of the world before into the world that is new. So our people have always been seaworthy. The other thing to bear in mind is that one of the richest kings after Solomon, who was out in Mali, he would send ships, hordes of ships out to the land that was called Astaroth. Some know it as Turtle Island. Today it's called America. Our people have been leaving their shores and traveling over to these parts of the world long before Columbus and the so-called conquistadors ever did.
Right.
And that's why when Columbus needed to know exactly how to cross what's called that narrow passage, the narrow passage, by the way, it leads from the Horn of Africa right over to the Americas if you make a straight run for it. The Most High has set it up that he even allows the waters to slow down, that the current of the water will carry you across. In other words, there's a certain time of the year that you don't even need a sail, you just need to have a vessel there, and the current will carry you across. Our people knew about this. And here in the Apocrypha, on page 31, it says, in verse 44, watch what it says. Read.
For the Most High, when showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over.
Till they were passed over. Go on.
For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And the same region is called Asarath.
See? So that's how we've been doing it. So we're not novices. And remember all of the foolishness they talk about, the fact that black people can't swim. I've heard that garbage too. I've been swimming since I was, 7 years of age. So, and my mother, by the way, used to swim like a fish. And I couldn't believe, my mother said to me, she swam. I never believed a word until one day I was struck blind by seeing her in a swimming costume. And she outdid myself and my sister Sonia. She swam into such a region. I said, I'm not following her out there. And we turned around and we went back. So this nonsense about how people can't swim, that's garbage. Don't believe everything the so-called white man tells you about who you are. You are greater than what you think. All right, we're going to stop this teaching at this particular point, at this juncture. And by the way, for those of you that were asking, when did the conquistadors get over to the Americas to see the Mayans and the Aztecs in their demise position, which was what the Lord said that he would do, according to what you read in Hosea chapter 8 and verse 13. That was in 1492. 1492. That's when that came about. That's why those drawings you saw. That's why this Aztec gigantic sculpture you see, they've taken these and they've put them in museums. Oh, you can't have it. This is just this relic is way too valuable and way too historic for you to keep. So guess what they did? They packaged the whole gigantic thing up with this tonnage and put it in a museum. And yet they keep telling you that you don't know nothing. When are you going to stop believing Esau and start believing the word of God for who you are? We have the last part of the teaching, which is next week. It's going to get interesting because we're going to deal with the last of the tribes of Israel. And it's going to get very interesting indeed. Because remember, some of you want to know what happened to Dan. Well, that's going to make it interesting. We'll find that out too. Next week. Now, I said I took my time. I didn't rush. At least I hope I didn't. And is there any questions from anyone online or anyone here in our gathering that you have any questions pertaining to what you have been taught, what you've been and were you edified? So, any questions? Do we have any questions online from any of our people? Yes, please. Yes. Oh, yes, that's the image, by the way. And notice, remember, look how they painted them darker colors. Some of them have more of a mulatto skin. But remember, in Israel, we run the gambit in terms of colors of skin. In Israel, we run that color. Can't? And we do that because it's like hair. When people say, oh, you know, our people, you know, we don't have long hair. Well, be quiet, please. If you don't know nothing, just don't say anything, because our people grow long. In fact, I'm going to show you, send an image right now. Sister Leah, if you would just put that up. I think that will answer a whole lot of questions right there. All right. So, if you could just throw that up when you get a second there. Any questions from anyone? Any questions? All right. Did they answer any points? I hope it did. Okay, I might as well talk to myself then. All this mighty gust of people, and I may as well answer my own questions. All right. So.
There is a couple questions online.
Okay, I'll take those.
Okay. Let me find them. There was a question earlier at the very beginning. Is it a sin to wear a medallion of a lion on my necklace?
Say that again.
Is it a sin to wear a medallion of a lion on my necklace representing tribe of Yahushai?
No.
Yahweh.
No. Let's, I think I may have to teach on that down the road. We always wore images. Always. When you check out the history of Israel, all 12 tribes, we all have insignias that are pursuant to the tribes. Judah is always a lion. Why? Because it is the uncontrolled, untamed lion of Judah. Meaning, there is no chain that can hold Judah. None. You have lions that you can chain them up. Judah cannot be chained. It will break every chain. And then you have, like Benjamin. Benjamin is ravenous wolves. And you'll find that Benjamites, West Indian, Caribbean people, will wear an insignia with a wolf on it. Is that a sin? No. It's an insignia. If anything, it lets the nations know that you know who you are, pursuant to the tribes. Now, why does Benjamites use a wolf? Because Benjamites, according to history and social documentary, that Benjamin will never see a Benjamite being beaten by someone and not jump in and sort you out. It won't happen. You can have a white man beating up on a black man, brother, you either need to die now because everybody's coming for you. Because they're pack creatures, packing their mentality. We don't let anyone beat on any of the nations. It's just the way it is. See? Then you have the burro with the Mexicans. Because they are one of the most hard-labored, strong-willed people. They're strong. So a burro is used, or a donkey is used, for their insignia. Now people think, oh, that's a bit shameful to have a burro. Oh, you're simple-minded. if you're thinking that you are as simple as a piece of paper that's blank with no writing on it, because insignias have always been, there have been houses in the past where they had a leaf or it was a rose. In fact, King James, he was over a particular house, and they were called House of Stewards, and they had what's known as a Tudor wall. You see, and they used flowers as their insignia. So don't let modern day thinking corrupt your understanding. But all of the 12 tribes all have an insignia. They all have something. Issachar deals with time and so on. And I didn't hit that purposely because I wanted to join that with something else we're going to be dealing with next week.
Okay. Next question. Does Zebulun include the countries between Guatemala and Panama? Example, Costa Rica, Nicaragua,
Yeah.
Honduras,
Yes.
etc.
Yes, they're all the same people. All the same people. And that's why you'll find when you use the term Benjamin, Benjamin covers most of the West Indian Isles, most of the so-called Caribbean Isles, maybe a better way of saying it. So all of those people going all the way back to Panama, all the way up to the other part, that is all of one particular group of people. And then the Mexicans, Issachar on their own covers one particular section. I have a map, not a map, I have a 12. Can you look out there, sir, towards to the right there? There may be a chart on behind some of those things there, if there is. Yes, please.
That's interesting that you say that, because it was 2013, I went to Honduras on a medical mission, and we would travel and see people in the mountains,
Right.
and they were black, or they looked black.
Yes.
But then the people working in the hotels and the restaurants were the lighter skin.
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct. I've had the good fortune of traveling over that side of the world. And one of the things that you will see when you're on that side of the world is that the people on the interior, they're the real people. In fact, when you go to Mexico and you see all the so-called light-skinned Mexicans, that's not the real Mexicans.
No.
You go into the interior, they look like you and I. And they are proud to be like you and I. But all this other nonsense you see, because remember, in all these films, they're always showing Mexicans to be light-skinned, or as you like to say over here, light-skinned. I like that. They like to show that, but here's not my point. The point that I'm trying to convey to you, all of the real people are on the interior. When you go, for instance, when you go to even like Colombia, right, and Uruguay, that's Asher. They're the Incas. When you see those people, the real one, they're black. They're black. They look nothing like what they show on TV. In fact, there was one prime minister or president of one of the countries. He said, "We don't have any black people here." I can't remember his name. You know, he needed a slap, a real good slap. But here's the thing. All of the people are still black. When you go, look, we got a sister here, Sister Elizabeth. She went to what used to be called British Guyana, all right? Sister Elizabeth, all right? When you went there, did they look like me? Since I'm relatively dark. Right. When you go into but then when you go into the interior, they're all dark-skinned people. When we go to Dominican Republic, again, dark-skinned people. But in the hotels, they're using all the people up front who are light-skinned. See? So, yes. So this kind of shows Simeon, Dominican. Here we have Zebulun with Guatemalan to Panama, which is Mayans. Then we have Gad, which is Native American Indians, which we're going to cover that. Then we have Reuben, which is Seminole Indians. In fact, could you put a Seminole Indian picture? I showed you the beautiful costume of those three ladies gathered together. I sent that over to you. If you could put that up so our viewers can actually see that. And then we have Colombia, Uruguay, the Incas, then we have Issachar, and so on and so on. But you will notice, even though this is now, this is Natali, which is Argentina and Chile, again, you would think that there is only light-skinned people in Chile. Chile's black. And you know what did it for me was when they used to serve the Miss World programs, not programs, but competitions. They were bringing out all of these light-skinned, white-looking people for these countries. And one year they complained like crazy. It was India. I don't know where they got this Indian woman from. She claimed she was Indian, but she looked like a white woman. And the Indians freaked out about it. And in the end, I think it was the woman who is a British actor. He ended up marrying her again. She was a Miss World. And he's a Cockney guy. He's older. He played the butler in Batman and
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. He ended up marrying a Miss World, and she was one that won it in one year, but she came up with her exact color. She was very browny. Obviously now she's lightened up her skin because she's married to a white man. But my point being, the countries do that because they want the world to reflect more white than black. The world is not. The world is black. They are the minority, not us.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions, ma'am? Any other questions? Any other? Oh yes. Where's the three women? She's Apache.
I'm not. Is it a colored picture or black and white?
It's a black and white. They're all black and white, and it shows them they're wearing their head garbs. That they're Seminole Indian women. I literally just sent it to you, so it's one in the very most recent ones I sent.
Last week. It was last week?
It was, I had them last week, but I sent it again recently, just a moment ago. Is there any other pictures, any other questions online? They look like her, but it's three sisters. This is the colorized version.
I'm still looking. I don't have them. I'm going
to send it to you again.
Okay. Send it to Mike. Send it to Pastor. There's so many coming.
I sent the one of the women with the long hair.
Pastor.
Yes, ma'am.
Please send it to Mike. Text it to me because there's so many coming in and they're not named, and so
okay.
I have to hunt for them.
Right, I've just sent you the one with the sisters with the long hair.
Okay.
Because that was one I wanted up, and the other one that I want is these. Right. Is there any other questions that any of our people want to ask? Here they are. These beautiful women here. I'll make sure you get exposure. There you go. So we've sent those two. Right. We'll send them to your regular situation. All right. Right, so do we have any questions further? All right, so you said that you went to, you went over there and you saw certain things and you realized that the people who are of the country are in fact dark skinned. Yeah.
And another thing that he said is that they don't complain.
Right.
So because it was a medical mission, we did surgery and
right.
we only had a select amount of anesthetic to numb them.
Right.
Some of the surgeries ended up being without any anesthesia.
Right.
They did not say a word, and they were just open.
Calm.
And that was amazing.
Right. Well, again, thank you, sir. Again, what you'll find is this, that our people have been trained to submit. And unfortunately, that's why when they make noise, I was going to bring my other book called Edom. Has any of you got a book called Edom? I was pushing you to buy it. There's a portion in it that says, yeah, that's the one. If you could find the page from it, it says that they are the most violent people It's in the first several sections. All right. Now, here's our sister. See? Look. That's their hair. Right? By the way, real hair. None of this other stuff. Real hair. They've grown it for years. It goes all the way down to the floor. Right? So when you are told and you're given misinformation saying, "Oh, people can't do that, grow hair, whatever," garbage. There's our people showing the proof of it. Look at that, thick, strong. You could hold them up with that thing.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So the next one, ma'am. All right. Just making sure now. All right. So, and then hopefully we can take some questions from anyone online. And I hope that this teaching has been useful to many of you who tune in. Right. Here is these are Seminole Indian women. Seminole. The original name is Cimarron. Cimarron. That's the real name, Cimarron. Because it denotes, now give it to him, he's going to read.
No, I didn't. I wasn't able to find it.
You wasn't able? I'll find it. I'll find it. It says that they are the most violent people. That they are. I think this is the one. Yeah, I think it's that one. We'll read that in from the top all the way down. But we'll do that in a moment. Just I'll have that in readiness. Right, so this is our Seminole Indian. Don't they look beautiful? I mean, and again, you notice that they always try to show our Seminole women looking like they're white women.
Yep.
See? But this is how they look. And if they don't look Negro, I don't know what does. They are of our bloodline. Con? All right. Any questions online? Any more questions? Because then I'll need to let everybody go.
Yeah. This is one picture you didn't show last week. James.
Say again? No, she is speaking to me. Speak to me.
James Brown. James Brown.
Yeah. And this one here, this is James Brown, and that's an Indian on his left. A full, I think he's Comanche. And when you look at James Brown now, and you see that Comanche Indian, they look almost like they're twins. Why? Because the bloodline, it's in our blood. You see? The phenotype is shown through our bloodline. See? So but you see, the world has taught us that if you look at James Brown, you wouldn't see an Indian. The world has taught us that he's a black man. No, he's an Indian. Okay, all right. If we don't have any more questions online, then I'm going to close this part so that our people can continue with their Sabbath in peace and tranquility.
I had a question, if I could ask.
You have a question? Go ahead.
Back in Genesis 49 and 8, where it talked about how Judah would be praised.
Judah will be praised, yes.
Mm-hmm. And that thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies.
Yes.
That reminded me of Yahushua, because he's from the tribe of Judah. He used to be praised.
Right.
And then the neck of our enemies, when Yahushua comes back in prophecy, is that correct?
Yes, because remember, Yahushua hasn't touched the enemy yet. And that's why I put so much emphasis when I was explaining the drinking of the wine, because in many camps they make light of that, like when he drank wine. No, the drinking of the wine was symbolic. He literally drank it, but he drank it to completely disdain himself up so that he could show what he's going to look like when he spills blood. He will have blood all over his face, his garments, and I took you to a scripture that showed you that. It said that he would bathe his sword in heaven. Now, why did it say bathe his sword in heaven? Because the heaven at the moment belongs to Esau. This is their heaven. So when he says he's going to bathe his sword in heaven, he's going to bring so much bloodshed that the scripture says it will be up to the bridle of a horse. And the mileage, it says that it will spread, will be over 20 miles. Imagine 20 miles of blood that is as high as a horse's bridle and so forth. See? It's going to be a very sad day when that happens. But it won't be to us, it will be to the other nations. And the primary person that its sword is going to be bathed on is Edom. He does not like Edom. He doesn't like Edom. Because Edom is an accursed thing. And that's why when our people end up marrying, dating, and doing all that garbage, they don't realize that they've tied themselves to destruction.
Yeah.
They will be destroyed with them, just like they're going to be destroyed. Okay?
All
right. Well, I hope that this teaching has been most fitting to you, and I hope that you have enjoyed what the Most High has prepared for us. Please continue to subscribe. Please like. And if you enjoyed the teaching, give us a thumbs up. And we want to encourage you to tell your friends and your neighbors, all those who are in Israel, that they can come and get some teaching that will make them wiser and fill their minds with the fruits of understanding of the word of the Most High God. To our brethren over in the UK, I want to say thank you for tuning in each week. I hope that this teaching helped to educate you and inform you, and to stimulate your spiritual foundation even the more, to know who you are in these latter days. So to Brother Azariah, to Brother Dominic, we say, Kwam Yasharallah. To all our brothers who are out there in Mozambique, those of you in Kenya, Nigeria, Dar es Salaam, and all of those various places where we get emails and information from you, we want to indeed thank you for tuning in. Hope that this has been edifying to your spirit, and that you continue to grow as the Spirit continues to manifest itself on you. To all our brothers here in the U.S., those of you in California, those of you in Florida, those of you in Atlanta, those of you in Nashville, Tennessee. Yes, I had to think about that one for a moment. Our brothers in Detroit and our brothers also in Dallas, Texas. We want to thank the Most High God for what He is doing with you, and we hope that you continue to tune in, learn more, and we pray that you use this teaching as a platform to teach others, to bless their souls, to enlighten them as to who they are in these latter days. On behalf of myself and the family here, we just want to say to you, Kwam Yasharallah. Selah.